In that case, that person is responsible for damages because they're in a state of daman of that thing. And an example where we saw that someone was in the daman of someone is like someone who has sold something prior to the purchaser receiving it. So it's under the responsibility of the bay' of the seller until the purchaser receives it. So his hand at that point is the hand of damana until the purchaser receives it. La ilaha illallah. So he's not liable for damages. It is not and then there's also another question that stems from that and tends to stem from that, and that is, what if there's a disagreement about return? And basically, la ilaha illallah, what do we say? So another question that stems from that is that if he claims that it has been damaged or lost, or that he's returned it to the person who commissions him, his claim is accepted with an oath. So then if there's a dispute and basically so-and-so commissioned me and I said, the roof leaked and the rain came in, or the wind blew a branch and broke the window and then rain came in and destroyed the merchandise. If he makes that claim, his claim is accepted with his oath. So he has to say, Wallahi, that's what happened, and then you have to believe him. Whereas in certain circumstances, he would have to actually bring a witness. So someone whose hand is amana, someone who's been entrusted, if the loss, they're not responsible unless there's negligence. And in terms of their return or their having properly cared for it, they're believed with their oath without having to bring a witness, basically a bayyina is what it's called, bringing a witness or two witnesses in cases. La ilaha illallah. He's not.
What if it was like somebody entrusted you with something, but you was using that thing?
That's considered negligence. So if someone, for instance, entrusted you.
If they said they don't mind you using it, like say it's a car, and somebody knew if he's leaving town. If he leaves it on the street, he's gonna get a bunch of tickets. So he said, "Hey man, why don't you take care of my car, and then while I'm gone, you can use it." And then so you're using it.
Yeah, I'd have to review. I have to review that. Because that might be considered iyara. That might be considered loaning you the car, and in that case, the person's responsible. But it might be considered. In this case, and it might be also wadi'ah. Yeah, there's a few chapters it could be, because it may not be this commissioning. As it's not, it's probably more likely to be wadi'ah, which is like leaving something with someone for safekeeping, or i'ara, which is loaning somebody something for use. Yeah, I'd have to review that, inshallah ta'ala. If you remind me in an email, I'll try to review it, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, Latif. But if, for instance, someone gave you something without authorizing you to use it, like for instance, they gave you something to sell, and then you were driving it around doing errands, and it broke down, or something happened to it, then that was a type of negligence because it was beyond the author what you were commissioned to do, and then that would actually entail responsibility. Yeah, and also like they said, negligence. So for instance, if the person didn't store it in a safe enough place and it was stolen, or they stored it in a way that it could be damaged, then that's those type of negligence. The person is going to be responsible. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Yep. So then we mentioned that when you're engaging in transactions, you have to engage in them a certain way that's in the interest of the person who's commissioned you. So he goes on to say, and this is in the case of sales specifically, the commissioned agent is considered reliable. It is not permissible for the commissioned agent to buy and sell except under 3 conditions. The agent must, 1 or A, buy at a typical price. So what that means is if you ask somebody to buy something for you or sell something for you, and they have to sell it at an acceptable market rate in that place and time, and a small decrease below that that's considered typically acceptable, that's all right, but not a large loss, unless they say sell it for whatever you can get, and they authorize you to do that. So like if you're acting as someone's agent, you have to act in their interests, and you, like in the case of your own rights, you could just be really easygoing, but in the case of someone who's authorized you, you have to be really careful. So for instance, if the market rate is 10,000, like sometimes, there's a certain amount you could come down, but typically, like if you were to sell it at 8,000, that would be considered a big loss. So, you couldn't do that. So whatever we've considered a major loss, you can't sell, for a loss like that. If it's just a small amount and so forth, that's okay, but typically you have to sell, or you have to sell at a typical price for that thing in that place and time. And then B and C of these 3 conditions are that they must purchase with immediate payment unless, not on credit, and that it be the local currency. So in terms of purchasing for immediate payment, if they authorize you to purchase for a deferred payment, that's acceptable. But if they just authorize you to sell or buy, then you have to do it in cash. It has to be immediate payment. And also he says it has to be the local currency. That's just talking about a situation where you have a number of currencies that could be traded in. So basically, if someone authorized to sell some here, and then you sold it for pesos, he would be pretty angry. You come back with some pesos instead of dollars, basically. Now, what about if it's a city where there's 2 currencies?